Hi, this is Brandon with Chesapeake Men's Health. Today I want to talk to you about different diets that I think are excellent for losing weight. So let's get right into it. So I think that all diets revolve around this idea, and you can't really get away from it, and that is the calories in, calories out method. It's a classic one. The Weight Watchers diet used to be built around it before they did the whole point system. Um, and realistically, you have to count your calories at least getting started because if you don't know how much calories you're taking in daily, how do you know? You're just like, yeah, I'm eating good. I felt the same way. And then I tracked my calories and realized I was eating double the amount of calories I needed to just to maintain my body weight every day. I'm supposed to eat about 2,000 calories every day. I was eating like 4,000 calories every day and thought I was doing great. So count your calories, at least getting started, no matter what diet you choose, because you must be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. So the next one is very similar to the calories in, calorie out. It's called If It Fits Your Macros, and it focuses on various ratios of carbs, fat, protein. And I put a really classic ratio, which is 30% carbs, 30% fat, 40% protein. This is a very common breakdown of your macronutrients. But there's some important things to note about how many calories are in each gram of a certain macro. So carbs, 4 calories per gram, fiber, 1.3 to 3 calories per gram, protein, 4 calories per gram, fat is 9 calories per gram, and alcohol is 7 calories per gram. So this is important because this isn't a diet here, but this is just a concept that you need to think of when you're doing macros or any diet for that case. Fat is about 9 calories per gram. That means it's more than double the amount of calories per volume. So when you're eating fat, also, it takes very little effort for your body to turn that into fuel or turn that into fat in your body. So the thermogenic effect is how many calories you're really burning based on the food that you took in. So if you're taking in fat, this says 0 to 3%. It's really like around 1% for the most part. So if you eat 100 calories of fat, you're taking in 99 calories for the most part. Now, if you go to carbs, there are only 4 calories per gram, so you can eat more volume of them. But the thermogenic effect is only 5 to 10%. So that just goes to show you that if you ate, let's say it's the best end. So you ate 100 calories of carbs, then 90 of those calories is going in your body being used for fuel or turning into fat. Let's go into protein. So protein's 4 calories per gram. So if you're looking at this, the thermogenic effect is 20 to 30%. So, and I've heard as high as 35%. So when you're taking in protein, it takes a lot more energy to burn. If you compare protein to fat, it takes so much more energy to burn protein up and digest it. So basically, when you eat 100 calories of protein, let's say 30% of that gets converted. So then you're only getting about 70 calories into your body. So I hope that makes sense to you. This is really important moving forward, and that's why, in general, a high protein diet helps so much with weight loss. Now, the ketogenic diet, I think this works well. The thing to note is that it's a high fat, moderate protein, low to no carb diet. So classically, it's 90% fat, 5 to 10% protein, 0 to 4% carbs. A lot of people who want to lose more weight and maintain more muscle, they do a higher in the protein ratio. So the 60 to 80% fat, 15 to 30% protein, less than 10% carbs. So the problem with the classic is sometimes you can lose some muscle mass and then you gain muscle mass with the moderate keto. So this one works basically if you were to think of a pie chart and you would just cut out a whole macronutrient, which is a third of your diet. The pros to this diet is great satiety. You're not very hungry when you're on this diet. It's easy to follow. Important to note, carbs should only be vegetables or fiber. So relatively easy to follow diet for the most part, except for social events where, there's cakes, ice creams, lots of carb heavy food, pasta, those kind of things. Carnivore. So this is 100% animal products in the purest form. There's a few other versions of carnivore. The one I can think of is called Dirty Carnivore, and basically that allows for coffee and seasonings on your meat. But virtually there's zero carbs, and it's mainly keto with a focus on protein. If you do eat an extreme amount of protein, sometimes you can get some glycogenesis in your body, so you'll actually have some sugar in your blood. But for the most part, it's a more strict, restricted ketogenic diet. So the pros are satiety, and this diet is very easy to follow. Most of the time, this diet is 95% beef and then 5% everything else like lamb, chicken, turkey, that kind of thing. So the cons is that this is restrictive. Not a lot of people can actually deal with how restrictive this diet is. And it can raise your blood lipid levels. And in the long term, it can lead to decreased folate. So, and the calories still count. But I will say this, because I do a mainly carnivore diet. If you take the thermogenic effect into eating, I can get away with eating more calories than if I wasn't eating all animal products like beef, because I think I calculated I take in about 270 grams of protein in a day. So you figure that, let's say 25 to 30% of those calories from that are gone from just the process of digesting that food. So I think that's a benefit for me with the carnivore diet, is I can get away with eating a little bit more calories. So, and I'm never hungry. So I can attest to the satiety, and it is easy to follow. I just cook a steak whenever I want something to eat. Intermittent fasting. So this gets me into like all of these diets. What works really well is that you have to have a caloric deficit. So this is restricting the eating window so that you have a caloric deficit. The 16-8, that's like skipping breakfast. The 20-4, that's like basically doing one meal a day, which is the OMAD. But maybe you have a snack after your meal or something like that. And then alternate day fasting, that's having a meal every other day. Or some people will do like a small meal one day, like less than 500. Oh, excuse me. Less than 500 calories. And then they will have like a normal meal on the second day. And it's easier over time to be able to fast longer and longer periods, as the leptin and ghrelin, which are two hormones that encourage the feeling of being full and also the feeling of hunger. And they adapt over time. And basically, like I said, decreasing calories by decreasing the eating window. I do carnivores, and a lot of times I do OMAD just naturally, one meal a day. I have in the past thought about doing alternate day fasting, but it's just a little strange to me not being able to punctuate my days with a meal. So you have to find what works for you. Next one, paleo diet. So this is not necessarily keto. It's very similar to keto, but it's all about natural, eating really natural foods. It has restrictions on certain foods that you can have. For example, instead of just having meat from the grocery store, you got to make sure it's grass-fed meat, organic chicken, that kind of thing, fresh produce, organic, no grains, no dairy, no lentils, so no beans, no corn. And they have an 85%, 15% rule. So 85% of your diet needs to be pretty strict with these rules, but 15% you can go off, like maybe some people put cream in their coffee every once in a while or go out for dinner every once in a while. But 85% of the time, they're really strict on this diet. Some other versions is the primal diet, which is basically the same thing, but they allow for dairy in that. Carb cycling, this is similar to keto because you're doing like low carb days, high carb days. Typically, you'll do 3 days of low carb, 1 day of high carb. And the carb days are on workout days, especially within the workout window, a couple hours before your workout. And it's a set 2 days a week, so it's not moving around or anything like that. And this is an interesting diet, especially if you're really athletic and you're training hard, because you get the benefits of being in ketosis for most of the time. But then when you're really trying to get a workout in, you eat the carbs and they fill up your muscles with glucose and glycogen, and then you can hit your workout harder. And by the time you're done your workout, you've burnt all that extra sugar and glycogen out of your muscles, and you're pretty close to back into keto at that point. Whole30, I've never tried this. I've heard of a lot of people trying it, and it's a really restrictive 30-day elimination diet. And then you reintroduce foods and evaluate for any food intolerances. And this is a very natural diet, so no artificial sweeteners, no prepackaged processed foods, no dairy. And I've heard about people having good results on it, but it's just so hard to stick to. Eat to 80. So this is like know thyself and monitor how you feel in your body and eat slower. Don't watch TV while you eat, self-regulate, and eat to 80% satiety. I guess this works for people who are really mindful and into meditation. I know for a fact this would not work for me at all. I eat to 100% satiety, and if I don't enjoy life. So this would not work for me. I would rather eat nothing but meat and be able to eat as much as I want within reason, and feeling full and not hungry all the time. Slow carb. This is also a really good diet. I've done this in the past and it works really well. So there's some really basic rules. If you want to find out more, Tim Ferriss has some great YouTube videos on this. But nothing white except cauliflower. That means no pasta, no rice, no bread. And the slow carb in this diet is beans. And it basically, they digest slow and they make you feel full. And I found that black beans are the best. It's really easy. You buy a big can of black beans, you rinse them out, you put the lid kind of back on them and put them in the fridge. And whenever you make food, you just cook some black beans up on the side with them in the same pan. And they don't really taste like anything except what you put them with, and they're not mushy. They have a nice texture to them. So I've tried a bunch of different beans, but the black beans seem to work the best with pretty much everything. So certain foods are unlimited, like vegetables in this diet. So you can eat vegetables to your heart content. There's really not a lot of calories in vegetables, and there's a lot of fiber, so you can eat a ton of them. Where it does limit you is with the meat. There's only certain amounts of meat you can have with the diet. And of course, you do have to take in consideration the calories. And they really, I eat a carnivore diet, but I'm not blind to the fact that eating beef is one of the higher calorie foods that you can even eat. For example, I eat 2 pounds of beef a day, and I think the calories are somewhere around 2,500 to 2,600. If I were to eat turkey, it would be more like 1,600 calories. So it's about 1,000 more calories for the same amount of food. So, they do look at that with this diet and limit the amount of meat. And the other thing with this diet on the mental side is you get one cheat day a week. If you were doing this diet, I would definitely look up Tim Ferriss and how to do that cheat day to kind of limit the damage from it. And it's very psychological so that you don't feel like you're missing out. Like during the week, you can write down the things you want on your cheat day and you can eat them all. And he actually encourages doing that early on. So if you want brownies, he encourages you eat a whole tray of brownies on that day of your cheat day. I mean, eat them till you're sick of them. And as you do that like every week, over time, your cheat day just becomes like, you eat so much junk, you're just so happy to get back to the slow carb diet the following day. And over time, you just don't indulge like that. Like, you don't want to eat a tray of brownies, 2 trays of cookies, a half gallon of ice cream, and a short stack of pancakes. Like, you're going to feel sick from that. But early on, you're going to want to do that. But later on down the line, you'll have so much more control. And I think, that was the last diet that I wanted to talk about. So there's probably a ton more diets that we could go into, but I really think that these are the ones that work the best for weight loss. So, thanks for watching. I hope this helps.